See, is for sure you're gonna need her then?
Did you get everything?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Here.
John Krischer.
Here.
Susan Murphy.
Here.
Phil Pardue.
Here.
Mary Jo Williams. Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay. Have a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public appearance? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. All right, let's move on to, any announcements from any of the trustees?
There was a beautiful, oh, sorry. Oh, no.
No, go ahead.
Oh, there was a beautiful children's workshop featuring handmade dream catchers just the other week, and it was smash, huge success, always. Beautiful.
Fantastic. All right, well, then we'll move on to announcements from the library director.
I don't have any announcements at this time.
Okay. Now, the order of business, let's approve the meetings for December 4th and a special meeting on January 8th. Do you have any revisions needed to the minutes? Okay. All right, we'll have a vote on it then?
We
Oh,
need
we
a
have to-
first and a second.
First, we have
Proposed
first and second,
approval
yes.
of the special meeting minutes from Wednesday, December 4th, 2024.
Second that motion.
All right, have a vote then.
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
Yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay. Receive the librarian's report for November and December 2024.
So no anomalies with November, December. We always kind of see a downward tick for both those months because of the holidays. And then things start to bump back up again January, and then as we work our way through the year. So nothing major of note at this point in time. Any questions?
No?
Just one quick question, just on the patron registration section. Do we just have every now and then we go through and you purge the records and people have to reapply? Is some of that happening here, or are we far enough away where the registrations are truly new registrations and not people doing it for the second time?
That's a good question. We're far enough away, so
Okay.
we do it annually, so we'll do it again in probably April.
Okay.
Somewhere around that time. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
Any
all the
other
questions.
questions? All right. All right, this, we'll receive the treasurer's report and approve the check register for November and December 24.
I would say similar here. It's looking great. Again, no major anomalies. We're looking at both November and December. We are under budget. The Friends have supplied an additional $8K, which is fantastic, and interest rates are doing great. Not much, nothing dramatic to report. It looks great.
I just have a question on the check register, if there's no questions on the budget.
Yeah, sure.
On the check register, we have some checks, some are Baker and Taylor and
Right.
Golden State Bookkeeping, they're kind of going, but we have some that are made out to people like Lauren Thompson and Megan Casamas. What are those for? Just
Those are for library programs. So anytime you generally see a name like that, that is for a performer, an artist. Megan Casamas has done our flower wreath programs in the past. If you see, let's see what else is on there. Mary Lee Sunseri, Jessica Bunn has done Baby and Me Yoga. So those are performer names that you see.
okay, and what about
For
Laura
programs.
Thompson?
Lauren Thompson, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
I think she's a singer that was at the Maine.
okay,
Oh, for the Elsa event? Yeah.
all right. That's the only questions I had.
Yeah, I asked the same question when I was treasurer.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause- all right. All right, can we have a motion then to approve the check register for November and December?
I move that we approve the check register for November and December.
I second the motion.
Could we have a roll call on that?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
Yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to the monthly report from the master plan for the ad hoc committee and provide staff with direction.
So just a quick update. We had this special meeting earlier this month to talk about the Library Board of Trustees' responsibilities. The negotiations between the city and the Carmel Public Library Foundation remain ongoing at this point, and those negotiations will inform any negotiations after that with an architect. And that's where we're at this point in time, just working on those negotiations. And I'll let the president and vice president chime in and if there's any other.
So I guess the negotiations are still on the legal agreement or memorandum of understanding? Or
They
is it-
are.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
once that's all done, then we'll move forward with the project,
Yes.
once it's done.
Is there a target for when they want to try and get it to the city council or the mayor looking at any time to look at this? Or is it just kind of whenever it gets done, it goes to the city council?
As soon as possible. I mean, that's,
Yeah, I
we're
think
trying to
that's-
get it done as quickly as possible.
I think that's between the city and the CPLF.
Right.
Which they are.
Right, but it's actively being worked on. Yeah, want to move it forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll move on from there, once that's done.
okay.
Susan, anybody else have any other questions they'd like, what's going on? Okay, thank you very much. All right, receive a report from the Carmel Public Library Foundation on recent activities. Alex?
Good
morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
So tonight marks the final program of our local history lecture series, which focused on a sense of place profiles from the collection. Local architect historians Kent Seavey and Seth Bergstein will present timeless treasures honoring cultural heritage through architectural preservation. This architectural program has particular significance as we continue to embark upon the House Memorial Library Centennial Restoration Project. We've been receiving enthusiastic feedback regarding the Architect Selection Committee's selected architectural firm, Moore, Rubel, and Udell. This firm has won numerous awards, including most recently the Los Angeles Conservancy Preservation Award for their faculty club at the University of California in Los Angeles. Buzz Udell, one of the firm's principals, is a national and global leader in architecture, and as founding partners, he and John Rubel lead Moore, Rubel, and Udell based on shared humanistic values and a celebration of collaboration within the office and beyond to their clients and communities. A significant added benefit is that Mr. Udell owns a home in Carmel and spends a lot of his time here with his artist wife. Buzz has worked extensively to expand the firm's expression and expertise in campus, cultural, civic, and residential architecture. His commitment to creating humane places inspired by climatic and cultural understanding has informed the firm's work at many scales. Throughout his career, Buzz has found teaching, writing, and community service to be critical in the role of architecture in shaping and celebrating place and community. He has taught at Yale, University of California, Los Angeles, University of Texas in Austin, and was honored to hold the distinguished Howard Friedman Chair of Architecture at the University of California, Berkeley. Moore Udell's work has been featured in numerous exhibitions and publications and has been recognized globally through over 250 awards for design excellence. And that's a little bit about why we were excited about him. And also on the fundraising front, CPLF has currently raised approximately $6.7 million in gifts and pledges for this project. And CPLF is looking forward to finalizing our agreement with the City of Carmel-by-the-Sea and for the architect's contract to be finalized so they can begin work on renderings so that our library and our community can continue to make progress towards this much needed restoration to be completed sometime in 2028.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for her?
How much of that are gifts and how much are pledges? Do you know?
I wouldn't right off the top of my head
Okay,
right now,
sorry.
but they're,
And I understand that
Yeah.
the program tonight is sold out.
oh yeah, almost
Yeah.
every one of them so far. It's been very,
That's
very
good.
popular, the
Very
local
popular
history.
this year.
Yeah, always
Very
popular.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to move on to receive the mid-year budget report for 24-25 and consider reallocations of funds, providing staff direction regarding e-materials, and consider an increase in restricted operating reserves. All right, Ashley?
Yes. So as our treasurer mentioned earlier, we are under budget overall. This year, we are looking at, we have expended only 42% of the budgeted funds. This is due to a few contributing factors. This is because of annual billing, which comes in the spring, so we see that, and then one-off types of projects like furniture purchases, which we'll go into later in the staff report. Our revenues are slightly higher than projected at 58%, and this is due to the unanticipated additional income from the Friends of the Library because they're doing such a wonderful job with their book room sales, farmers market, and in-library sales, and also interest rates remaining high. So, as just mentioned, the Friends of the Library provided us with $8,000 more than anticipated. We're very grateful for this, and it's very exciting for them in terms of what it will look like for them in the future for fundraising. I know they've got some big goals. We just had a meeting earlier this month, and I think they're going to do great things this year, and we can probably budget anticipated income a little higher for next year. Interest income is starting to tick down just a tiny bit, but it wasn't doing that at the rate that I had thought it would be. And so we're at 86% of where we thought we would be at this time of year. So I think we'll probably see an additional 10 to 15,000, maybe a little bit higher income revenue from interest income by the end of the fiscal year. And then we did receive an unanticipated donation in the amount of $5,000 at the end of December, for which we are very grateful. So going into any questions about our revenue before I move on? So we're doing great there, more money than we thought we would see this year. Expenditures, again, we are lower than we thought we would be at this point in the year, probably. I did ask for a budget adjustment this fall for an additional $8,000 from reserves for strategic planning. However, our strategic planning consultant ended up needing to pull out at the last minute, but we had laid the groundwork pretty well with a plan for how we were going to tackle the project, and I ended up leading that. So we did expend just under $1,000 of those funds with the planning part of this, but that $8,000 went largely unexpended. I recommend that we move the unexpended funds back to reserves, since we didn't need them after all. However, there are some other items in administration specifically. We do an audit as part of a city department every year. We pay for our audit. For the last 6 or 7 years, it's been $4,000, and they finally did bump it up and increase the amount. And they did provide us with a projection out for the next 5 years for any audit increases. And I do ask every spring, is the audit going to increase? And we didn't get that information. So I would recommend that we pull that $1,000 rather than from the $8,000 from print advertising. We haven't been using the print advertising budget as much. Our program attendance is so good that putting ads in the pine cone to get people to come, when the larger problem we have is there enough room? We haven't been doing that, but the remaining funds in print advertising would like to use to advertise our summer reading coming up for all of the programs for teens, for adults, for kids. Any questions about administration?
I have one question.
Yes.
On the print advertising, are we going to need that when we get into this project for publicizing community events for how the library is going to look, for the design thing? Is that because once we get into the project, we're going to have to outreach the community, so that's going to have to be print ads. So I'm not disagreeing with what you're doing. I'm just asking, do you think we could always readjust the budget again if we have to go that way?
Yes, we could, and it depends on the ad size as well. Like, are we doing a full page ad? Are we doing a half page ad? Are we doing multiple quarter page ads over a series of weeks? And so there's all different pricing models and ways to look at how we do this. So we can balance out both needs with summer reading and community outreach.
And we could really reach out to the Res Association and the other groups instead of going through the paper.
Absolutely.
On things like that.
Absolutely.
Just a question I had to ask.
No, there's all different ways that we've done, and we've done this for community activities events and summer reading in the past. So that the remaining funds in print advertising will be adequate for, I think, our needs for the rest of the fiscal year.
Yeah. I think we should just deal with it when we have to. If we need to bump up print advertising, we can later. And if we don't, we don't.
Yeah,
Right, because we're under budget now overall, and I think we're in a good spot. And again, we can adjust when if we get to April, May, and it looks like, we're going to go over in print advertising. We can talk about that.
All right.
We also don't know when we need it. It may be this fiscal year, maybe next fiscal year. So,
Well,
we have it. I think that we can reallocate to meet the need.
Yeah. I understand your point. Yep.
Right, and I think that, again, based on ad size, that we can balance out that as well. But for both community meetings and for summer reading, depending on how we design the ads.
I remember signing the checks for the pine cone.
Yes.
So I know about how much they are. I remember that.
Yeah.
So I know what that cost is going to be.
Right.
All right, that's the only I'm trying to look ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the equipment budget, We're only at 15% of spending thus far, and that will be remedied this spring with the purchase of new shelves throughout the local history vault. I won't bore you all with details about off-gassing and particle board and things like that, but those shelves, and some of the shelves in there do need replacing. We also, for some time, have needed a fire-safe door. If you go into the vault now, it's a glass door that's wood, and so we're protecting, we want to protect all of our collections as much as possible, and so fire safe door, and then some work on the flooring in that department. We did have some humidity issues, and that made us realize that we've got carpet in the vault, which isn't great for retaining moisture, mold, all of the things that could damage collections. So we've been working on getting quotes for that. In addition, some new shelves for the teen lounge. And I'll go into more detail about the teens in particular when we talk about hard copy materials later in the staff report. And then, of course, so for some of our equipment, and this is FE Technologies, you'll see this in the check register, that is our RFID, radio frequency identification tags, self-check machines, all of the maintenance contracts, those all come due in the spring, and those are bigger dollar amounts. So while we're at 15% of spending for equipment overall, there'll be heavier spending this spring. I'm sure we'll be expending all of those funds. Questions about equipment? IT budget, we're dead on 50%. The internet and telephone budget, however, has been overspent by $479. This is partly due to the Scenic network, and Scenic is complicated with the many layers of federal and state agencies involved in providing us with high-speed internet. We use E-rate credit to offset these costs. There's two ways to do it. We can use the E-rate credits to offset the costs, and then we get a bill basically that's for $0. Or we can pay it, and then they'll reimburse us. And we've opted for many years now to do E-rate. This has worked well for us. I didn't change anything when I became director. However, last year, the Imperial County Office of Education took over the management of the Scenic network. They've been doing fine, but there were some delays with the state government and the federal government with how they have done the billing and the issuance of the E-rate. And so we actually did receive a bill. I usually budget just in case we receive any or E-rate doesn't cover. And that is the reason for the overage, and we should be seeing a reimbursement check. It is unclear at this point. When I spoke with the Imperial County Office of Education as to when that would take place, because everybody was moving slowly, and their turnaround time is usually 2 weeks, but with state and federal, I'm not quite sure when we'll see those reimbursed funds. And that is the reason for the overage there. Any questions about Scenic, E-rate, all of that fun stuff? All right, let's talk about hard copy materials. So, spending for hard copy materials is at 45%, with underspending in particular in both the adult areas and the teen collections. Let's talk about the teen collections and the teens. So, we are fortunate to have Sierra, our teen librarian, and she's been with us for the last 2 years. And having her is a huge deal because it's the first time we've had a person that's really had their background is in teen librarianship, not just a librarian who happens to be trying to do teen work. And so she's been working, with our teens and building up that collection. What she has been finding is that fiction for teens does not circulate. They want the old favorites. They want Hunger Games and Harry Potter and all of these ones that I actually grew up reading to some extent, but they don't really want to read fiction. And they'll read nonfiction, but usually they read it in-house, and so we track that because you see the books laying around. But it's really graphic novels and manga. So what we are looking at doing is weeding the fiction collection with a heavy hand, and making more room for graphic novels and manga, incorporating some more shelves into that space, because that's the other thing is we can purchase all the books that we want, but if there's nowhere to put them, then what are we doing? It'll be like there's some great pictures from the pine cone in the 1950s, before the library had expanded, gotten more shelves, and there were books stacked on books stacked on books. and you can tell that if you go into the Harrison Library and you look at the little insets under the windows, every single place we could carve out shelves. So that's what we're proposing for the teens. Is you will see an uptick in spending throughout the spring, but we do want to move some funds from the fiction budget to the graphic novel budget, and then move some of the nonfiction budget. Again, space issues. We know it's getting used in-house, but it's still not getting used to the extent that graphic novels and manga is, to performers for the spring program. So our Dungeons and Dragons leaders, Sierra's got some other great programs planned out for our teens this spring, and so I'd like to move those funds around there. The spending for the kids collection on track. We're always a little under with adult spending, and we'll probably do some catch up this spring. And some of that is to do also with how and when books are released. So you see later this spring, you'll see all of the beach reads come out. So there'll be an influx of all the beach reads, and that's when we'll do some more heavy ordering, May, June, getting prepared for summer reads. So any questions about hard copies, teens, how they're using the collections in the library?
Only one question.
Yes.
Will we have to buy some shelving? Would that be part of the budget?
Yes, that will be part of the budget.
That'll come out of
They'll come out of the equipment budget.
budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the only question I had.
Yeah, we've got a couple little nooks and crannies where we can
Okay,
fit some
all
more,
right, just-
put some more shelves.
I wanted to
And are
make sure we had
having-
where it was coming from.
Go ahead. Are you done?
Yeah.
Oh, my question is, are we getting enough teens to let us use that money for the teens?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah. We've
good.
we've got a good group
Okay,
coming
good.
through there. Yeah.
That's what I wanted,
Mhm.
because for a long time, we had very few teens.
It was like wildlife sightings, I know.
Oh.
And now
Now
we've been feeding the wildlife, and yes, they're there all the time, and it's wonderful if you're down in the teen
Good.
lounge. Yes. Tech services. We are at 50% of our spending for the fiscal year overall. I would like to switch some things around, which is our cataloging budget is over at 61% of spending, and I'd like to allocate some money from materials processing and from replacements to avoid us going over budget in our cataloging overall. Questions about that? No? Databases, we're on, with the exception of two of our spring bills, and that's Value Line and Ancestry. All the database subscriptions, which are annual, have been received and paid. For e-materials, and this is where I'll be looking to all of you for direction, we're at 57% of the budgeted funds for this fiscal year. Not projected to go over budget. We did sunset Hoopla in September, and we only used 74% of the funds that were allocated for Hoopla through September. So we're under there, and of course that's not going to go up because Hoopla's done. We're slightly over with ebook spending. We're at 53%. Two ways to course correct with that. One, I think we might be over there a little bit because I ran my numbers January 15th. That was the last time I looked at those. For some reason, QuickBooks was wanting to do the allocations if I ran the reports through December 31st. It wasn't working, and so some of that spending has occurred in the new fiscal year, so that could be that 3%. We can just slow our spending down and spread it out for ebooks. We can transfer some of the remaining funds that aren't going to be spent from Hoopla to offset that current overage. And I wanted to throw this out. A third option for consideration would be to just use all of the remaining Hoopla funds for ebook spending, knowing that ebooks circulation remains robust. If you look at our librarian's report, it's a good piece of our circulation. So I'll leave it to the board, since we've been having these in-depth discussions about ebooks overall, what direction that you all would like to go with ebook spending. So
My recommendation would be just take the hoopla, roll it in to the ebooks, and then run the numbers again at the end of the month to see if there's any carryover. Because, whether it's 6 months in or 7 months in, you can do the math to figure out where you are on the spending.
Right.
And the hoopla funds are just sitting there not going to be spent.
Right.
So that'd be my recommendation. Roll the hoopla funds in and then rerun the numbers.
For
at the
average
end.
spending for the rest of the
Right.
remaining fiscal year, yes.
For the percentage, just to see if it matches up.
When we brought up, as we had talked about, that we're going to sunset those, but make up for it on the other ebooks. So
Right.
we told the public we would, so I think your idea is perfect.
Okay.
That we do it that way.
Okay.
Do you have any, do you have any?
No, I just wish Mary Jo could say it, 'cause she was on the same ad hoc committee as me. But yes, very logical. Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. So if no other comments about ebooks, we'll move on to programs.
Okay.
Yes? No?
No, I was just, my question's more at the end when we try to approve all this, because we've talked about some things that are like, I'm not sure I see the $8,000 being moved in. I just want to make sure we get the,
Okay.
Yes.
the movement right at the end so we capture. That was my only question, so on to the programs.
Got it. Okay, so programs, we're at 28% of spending for this year. That's part of that is because a good piece of that budget is allocated to summer reading. So that is big across the board for teens, for kids, for adult programs, and we have been already in the throes of booking performers and ordering supplies. So when you look at the check register next month, you're going to see a lot of activity around summer reading and getting ready for that. We have some invoices that haven't come in yet for the oral history program. Katie's been hitting that super hard, so you'll see those come in as well. But overall, I think it looks under budget, but activity is happening, and we'll be expending, definitely will be expending all of the program budget. Okay, so the reallocations and the adjustments. Let's talk about those. So we kind of went through readjusting some of the line items throughout the budget. That's $1,000 from print advertising to shore up the audit budget, which came in higher than we were anticipating. $479 from software to internet telephone for the overage from Scenic. $1,000 from teen fiction to graphic novels for teens. $4,000 from materials processing and $2,000 from replacements for a total of $6,000 to cataloging, and then $1,500 from nonfiction teen to performers teen for spring programs. And then you provided me with direction to move the remaining hoopla funds for ebook purchases. Trustee Pardue brought up the $8,000 surplus from the Friends of the Library, and then also the additional funds that were earmarked for strategic planning. That was about $7,000
Okay.
That were pulled from reserves earlier this year. Where are those going? And so my recommendation is that we move that money to reserves. So for a total of $15,000. Per our financial policy, we should have 6 months of operating reserves put aside. Those are restricted operating reserves. The last time we made an adjustment with those was, probably before my time as director, and so it's time. We're $39,000 less than we should be at, since we've had an increase in our budget the last 2 years. And so I recommend that we move that $15,000 into the restricted operating reserves. And then as we get through the rest of the fiscal year, I recommend that when we see what interest income looks like. We move the any overages that we see coming in be moved into the restricted operating reserves to bring it up to the $214,000 that we should be at.
Okay.
Does that sound copacetic to everybody?
Yep.
Very good. And so I'll look to all of you to make a motion to that effect for all of these adjustments, for both the line item adjustments, but also the move from the $7,000 earmarked for strategic planning that's currently residing in the staff and training conferences budget, and then also the additional $8,000 received from the Friends of the Library to restricted operating reserves.
Okay. I think I got it. Unless anybody does anybody have any questions?
Well, I only have one comment. I know we have like 6 months. Personally, I'd kind of like us to have maybe a year in reserve. I know that's going to be hard to get, but that's a comment down the road I'd like to bring up, that maybe have a year of.
And we can speak to that when we get to
Right.
the policy discussion, and perhaps bring forward the financial policy
Right.
first off to discuss changing that policy from 6 months to 1 year.
Okay.
Just a thought I had,
All right, so I move that we approve the reallocation of funds as from $1,000 to print advertising to audit, $479.44 from software to internet telephone, $1,000 from teen fiction to graphic novels, $4,000 from the materials processing, and $2,000 from replacements, to a total of $6,000 to the OCLC cataloging, $1,500 from nonfiction teen to performers teen, the $8,000 extra from the Harrison Memorial, Friends of the Harrison Memorial Library, plus the $7,000 residual from the strategic studies to the operating reserves, and to approve the reallocation of the remaining Hoopla funds to the e-materials funds.
Second that motion.
Can we have a roll call on that, Leslie?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
Yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
All right. All right, let's move on to consideration of updates to the library's collection development policy.
So this policy is just returning to you for final approval. Trustee Williams had some edits that she provided me with. Those have been included as an attachment. Nothing else with the staff report has changed or anything else. So if you approve her additional, actually there are subtractions from the policy to make it less redundant in places. I think we should be good to go.
So her changes are the ones in red underlined?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments on them? Any revisions they'd like to make? I guess
Yep.
get a motion to approve that.
I so move.
Get a second.
Second?
All right, could I have a roll call for that, Leslie?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
Yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's receive a plan for review of the library policies.
So as we spoke about at our last meeting, this is a good time, especially with doing strategic planning, a lot of good housekeeping stuff. It's great to review all of our policies on a semi-regular basis. The last time we did in-depth policy review was 2018 and through 2019. Here you have all of the policies listed out in front of you. I would like to bring them forward over the next 4 to 5 months in interrelated groups of 3 or 4, and we can start with the financial policy as we just spoke about. Some of them we may just be taking a look at and reminding ourselves of what's there. I'll be having the city attorney take a look at these as well as needed. And I also do have some policies, new policies that I may be proposing to the Board of Trustees that have kind of been in the back of my mind, in progress, discussions amongst other library directors as to, whether we need a formal policy on this, or does it go into a policy that we have here. So that'll be forthcoming for all of you in the next few months.
So as I look at the lineup, the 14 that are there, and most of them have dates. So we're approving the dates, but not all of them have dates.
No, not all of them have dates. And so that is an interesting record-keeping item where we didn't note when they were last updated. And so I don't have that. I didn't feel confident putting that information down.
Okay.
They were looked at, and we just didn't record that.
So is this the order in which we're going to look at them, or is this just the listing the 14 that we have?
This is just listing the 14 that we have.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be prudent to start with your new revisions? Start with those ideas you had to change some policies and make some policies. If we could start there, and then with the financial, and then move on.
I think, yes, we'll start with the financial policy, and we've got the collection development policy completed, but we'll look at a few other policies in line with the finance policy, like the fine-free policy. If we want to stick with that, I would hope we want to stick with that.
I would
but
like to hear your
some of the new policies.
The new policies, that way we could discuss them, and maybe if we carried on to another meeting, we could
have them going at the
Yeah,
same time. Yes.
Whenever you would be able to have them.
Yes.
What meeting would be. Because I think that the other policies seem to be working pretty well right now.
They are, and so but we still, I think, yes, I can do that. I can bring forward we'll start with the new policies, but also the finance policy.
Any other questions? Mm-mm. All right. I guess that would be any future.
Future agenda items
Yeah.
besides policies? I'll have strategic plan next month as well.
All right. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.